surprising things was the amount of their buying power. That when you are building 100,000 homes a year, what you pay for lumber, drywall, granite, quartz, it's nothing. You are changing people's lives fundamentally.
Hey everybody, welcome back to The Real Estate Show. I'm Tiffany Weber, a real estate attorney in North Carolina with 2 locations, one in Mooresville and one in Huntersville. Thomas and Weber, you know who we are. And today I am so excited about our guest. We have Matthew Means. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks so much for having me.
Man, it's so exciting when the big city agents make their way up to the lake to spend some time with us.
I mean, I took a flight to get here, so I'm...
Did you really?
No, I'm messing with you.
I thought you meant like you just got up from the airport. I'm like, man, I feel really special, but...
No, it's always nice being up here. I mean, and honestly, it's such a joy to see this area here, but also be up here. And I have a lot of clients that want to be up here. So it's a no-brainer. So.
Yeah, it's kind of a fun, little bit of an afternoon to like check out what's going on so you can keep your clients up to date on.
Absolutely.
Hey, just so you know, the lake has got a few new things going on.
It has a lot going on.
Yeah.
It's a great time to be up here. I mean, it's a lot of restaurants coming, nightlife options coming. It's almost becoming its own city within a city.
Yes.
And so you kind of don't have to leave unless you really, really want to. And that's exciting for this area.
Yeah, I agree with that. When we were moving to Mooresville, I fought it. We were commuting not that far, but still, even just from Huntersville Harrisburg before 485 was completed. Yeah. One day it could take us 25 minutes to get here. Another day it'd be over an hour. And that kind of got old every day. So, I was like, I guess we got to move to Mooresville. And all I thought we would have is like farmland and Walmart. And I was so wrong. And I've never been more happy to be proven wrong in my life because I don't have to leave if I don't want to.
You don't have to leave, so.
Yeah, it feels like a mini vacation to go like to South End or somewhere.
And thank goodness for the toll lanes.
Absolutely.
That I can zip down and zip back up. So it's nice.
Yeah, worth every penny.
Absolutely. Yeah, I get that bill and I'm like, yep, I did that.
Yeah. So. Definitely earn those miles.
For sure.
So you have a really interesting background.
Yeah.
That I've learned, having talked to Andy and Ryan, and I want to hear it straight from your mouth. How'd you get into real estate? What were you doing before? Like, give me the story.
Sure. Yes. So I'm kind of a unicorn here in Charlotte just because I'm born and raised here. So native here. My father was born here. My grandfather was born here. So my roots are deep in Charlotte. And so I
was going to ask if you were a native because we have like a... I'm not specifically from Charlotte, but just the Piedmont here.
Okay.
We have an interesting accent because it's not super twangy, but you can hear in certain words
it's certain word, and I'll hear that they'll say, "Oh, you don't have a Southern accent," and then I'll say something. Yeah. And then they'll, I
it's a little bit like the Chapel Hill. Chapel Hill's maybe a little bit more strong, but you would know because you spent some time there.
I spent a little bit of time there. And then, so born and raised here, and I've seen so much change, right? And that's the thing that I love about it and gives me kind of that kind of unique feel for Charlotte, because I remember when Ballantyne was 4 pillars in the ground.
Yep.
And it was they were like, oh, come out here and live out here. And I'm thinking, who in the world is ever going to live out there, right?
Yeah. Like the Point here.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my gosh.
We're not paying money for those lots. No one's going to drive that far. And now look at it.
And here we are, right? So it's amazing to see that change and to give people that kind of info about where the city was prior and then now where it's going in the future. And that's the one thing I really enjoy giving people, because Charlotte is such a city on the rise. Yeah. And I say Charlotte meaning this whole area. It has nothing but growth for the next decade, right? Yeah. And that's just really, really cool to see and have people take advantage of it. And so born and raised here, I went to Charlotte Christian High School and then went to Chapel Hill for college. And that was always my dream school. I ran track there. I was a sprinter there. So that was always really exciting. And, was studying, poli-sci and history and Supreme Court law and all this stuff, and thought I wanted to do what you do.
That, only having talked to you for a short time, I'm not yet, this is not surprising. Right. Like, it all is making perfect sense.
Right, tell you. And so I thought I was going to do that. And I remember I was telling my mom, I was like, Mom, I really don't think this is what I want to do. And so she says, hey, go to the spring job fair and just see. And interview and see what's out there. You don't have to do anything, you don't want to. So I remember I went and got a suit from like the Goodwill. And I was like, okay, I'm going to figure this out. So I started interviewing, and there was a guy that worked for Pulte Homes.
Okay.
And he proceeds to tell me, hey, you have the personality for this. You're going to do really, really well at this. And I can promise you that you'll do better than everybody in this room year one.
Oh, that's some high hopes right there.
That's pretty interesting, right? So I said, okay, and I had other jobs and sales and everything else, and I was like, you know what? Okay, let's give this a shot. And the funny thing about that is, I remember when they gave me, I want to say they gave me like a $5,000 like bonus, like sign-on bonus. And
Which feels huge for a new grad. You know?
My gosh. I mean, it was like I hit the lotto.
Yeah.
And I still remember I go to the bank to deposit it. And they were like, oh, we've never seen this activity in your account. We have to keep it for 2 weeks, right? And so then I was like, oh, that's fine. And I said, by chance, how much money do I actually have in my checking account? And they were like, you have $8. and
now you have $5,000.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, okay. And I just left. I know I'll get it in 2 weeks. And so it's just amazing how your life changes, right?
Yes.
But that was just one of those turning points, and had a fantastic neighborhood out in Ballantyne, where I really cut my teeth and learned from a lot of the older agents that had been there, and they took me under their wing when they did not have to, and that's why I love to pay that forward as well now, because the information is so critical, and there was a difference between me being a success or having to get out of it, and I've had mentors every step of the way, and that's what I tell every young broker: find somebody that's willing to share info and that's not intimidated about sharing info, because too often we hold on to info instead of giving it out there, and you can elevate somebody's life. And that's what this is really all about. And so I was lucky in that regard to have a great run in new home sales with Pulte and Lennar Homes, and learned a lot. Good and bad. Yeah. And that's how I know the builder business inside and out now.
Yeah. So, yeah. That's new construction is complicated.
It is.
Extremely complicated.
It is.
Before I was an attorney, I worked at Electrolux Major Appliances in the builder division. So clients of ours being Pulte and Lennar and D.R. Horton and David Weekley and all of these things. And that kind of piqued my interest in real estate once I got out. Yes, I was doing a lot of litigation, but when it came time to come back around to real estate, I'm like, watching how these big builders do business, like, this is interesting stuff.
It really,
There's
really is.
so many moving parts. Did anything surprise you? Like, especially your first year being a person who, you know, like, did you ever go through the home building process with your family as a teenager or a kid?
You know, I never did.
Neither did I.
And so seeing that and seeing how, you know, and now when people would say, you know, we had the big, like when lumber was so pricey and they were like, oh, well, when it comes down to builder, they'll pass it along. I said, that's not how this works.
No, yeah.
They understand.
We're not rewinding.
They're not rewinding. They know, oh, you'll pay it.
Yeah.
And you're going to pay it.
Yeah.
And so it's just.
Maybe you'll get lucky with a custom cost plus, you know, but these other builders, you're not getting
doing that. And I think one of the surprising things was the amount of their buying power. That when you are building 100,000 homes a year, what you pay for lumber, right, drywall, granite, quartz, it's nothing.
Yeah.
And so and there's so much margin there with new homes, right? And especially with production builders. That was the one thing that was totally eye-opening, and how, you know, you're finding the land, right? And you're developing that land, and just every step of the way. It was just quite interesting to see from a piece of dirt to a home, everything that goes into it. I don't think a lot of people realize what all goes through it, and how you have to navigate cities, right? And different counties, and just kind of how that all apparatus works is so interesting for you to build 400 homes. Yeah. Right.
And even just the one home out of the 400, how many people have to be involved and approve and give the green light for things to happen from well before, you know, the land was purchased, just to get to the end of that one home.
Right.
And even from builder to builder, how they go about purchasing land. How do they decide what's going to be good for them? Like, an Eastwood Homes has a completely different, you know, plan of how they buy land and what kind of land they're going to work with versus a David Weekley or a Lennar
or Ryan.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, and some are on these takedown schedules where they don't really even want to develop. They'll go onesie twosies with somebody and try to figure it out that way. But it's an interesting game, and that has changed so much even from last time I was in that game. But yeah, that's the one thing that I noticed, that okay, their buying power, how they operate, and you can actually learn a lot about your own business by seeing how they operate. And that's the one thing that taught me kind of how to do this business day by day, was there was a structure there where I think a lot of new agents, they don't understand that you just can't wake up at noon and things happen magically. It's just not how it works, right? And so that's what new home sales was. Hey, every day you show up, wear a shirt and tie. That's just what it was. You are there at these times. You leave at these times, right? So it was just always a system in place for success. And now when you go on your own, if you don't have the systems, you're not going to make it.
What things did you adopt system-wise, if any, from your time in new home sales?
Sure. I mean, they had a whole system on buyers and just, different kind of, we would always role playing and everything else, right? So you always had
consumer
that kind
behavior,
of consumer
psychology.
behavior, right? And now with social media and our iPhones, that kind of behavior can now be mapped, right? And you can notice that through AI and things like that. And they kind of know what you're thinking before you even think it, right?
A little scary, but kind of fun
It's
too.
super scary. It's fun, but it's super scary stuff. But kind of taking that with it, but also conducting your business day by day. Follow up. That is so key in this line of work. And it's amazing how so often we have a love them and leave them type mentality here. I always tell people all the time, it's almost as if we're like the cell phone carriers, right? Where if you've been an AT&T customer for 20 years, there's no deals. But if you're getting a new phone and you're a new customer leaving Verizon, they'll give you every deal.
Oh, yes.
And so, but it's like treating everybody as if it's, hey, it's your first deal instead of, oh, they're fine. And then you get angry when they use somebody else.
Yes.
Right. So it's just that follow-up was so key. And that was a humongous deal in new home sales because they had the CRM. You had to log your phone calls. They could see who you were doing. So it was accountability there that you can then put into your business when truly you are the CEO. And so like, I don't have to wake up early. I don't have to do certain, I don't have to call anybody. But then those results will show at the end of the year.
Yeah, that's interesting too, because something about the corporatization of it is that they know this many phone calls will eventually result in this many home completions.
For sure.
And they know that through the testing and data and what they've actually done. So if you're not hitting your metrics, they're selling less houses. They're completing less homes.
Right.
And you can see that happen now in your business of if I'm not doing the things that are like my metrics, then I'm not going to get the outcome that I want.
100%.
And so many people not having had the same experience that you did, or maybe not thinking as critically about it as you are, may not be realizing that, like not catching the cause and effect there.
Right. And you, it's not even about catching it. You just don't know because no one's ever told you.
Right.
Right. I mean, this is truly an industry where, if you make 100 phone calls a day, at some point that's going to pay off.
Yes.
Right. It might not pay off for a year or 2 years, but at some point it started the kind of the ball starts rolling down the hill. Right. And so, but if no one's ever explained that to you, you don't understand that. And I'm glad that we had people that were tracking it because, I tell people this was big business. I mean, they would spend 30 grand on marketing for a weekend. Right. And they would have the radio station out there and a TV spot and the billboard and this. So you need to sell some homes.
Yeah. We're going to get as many families here as possible.
Right.
We're going to keep their kids entertained while they talk to you.
Exactly.
And you better do something.
Right. And you better be executing, right? And they understood how critical driving traffic is. And that's what, when you're listing a home, it's not about even finding that buyer. It's about driving traffic because it's a numbers game. If I can drive a ton of traffic, I'm probably going to get an offer.
Right.
If I drive 2 people through a home on the weekend, that's not great. But new home sales was all about, Pulte is about traffic.
Right.
I need 100 families to come to this neighborhood this weekend because then I know it's probably going to equate to 10 sales. And so it's just all those little things that I took with me. And also being young, didn't know anything, being able to be coachable and teachable, that's also key too.
How did you decide to leave that, like what seems like it was a good career for you, and that did you feel like maybe you'd mastered it, you're ready to conquer something else? What kind of helped you make the decision of, I'm going to do this my way? Yeah,
that's a really great question. I kind of remember it like it was yesterday, because you get into a spot where you are successful in it, and I just stopped wanting to be beholden to any manager. Right, sales manager is probably the most volatile role in any new home sales group, and so you're one change away from all of a sudden they're bringing somebody in your neighborhood that's their friend from another company. So now all of a sudden it was going to be 20 homes to sell. Now you're going to get 10 homes to sell.
Yeah.
So your income wasn't about you. It was about somebody else dictating those terms. And I just got kind of over that and tired of that. And I always like to bet on myself. And it, the first year I lost 80% of my income trying to bet on myself. But it was the payoff now is it's just crazy, right? So that was a great move, and luckily I was so young in my career to be able to make those kind of choices. But yeah, that was the main thing, was I just didn't want to be beholden to a manager that could literally take away half of my income at the drop of a hat. Right? Yeah. And so that was a major change.
I'm curious about like that first year with the big change in income, but also not having someone to watch you count how many calls you made. Was that freeing and empowering for you? Or did you feel like maybe like I got to create my own structure here? Tell me about that first year of leaving that structured environment.
It was a shock. It was a shock. I did not think, and probably being just kind of, not thinking clearly about it, but I thought it was going to be a lot easier. I thought that I was going to be, that those two lines of work from new home sales to general brokerage was going to be a lot easier to kind of transition into.
How old were you then?
I would have been 20, let's see here, 26.
That kind of, me at 26 would have been the same way.
Yep, 26, 27. Thought, okay, it's real estate. No biggie, right? And instead you learn that, no one's driving traffic to your model home. No one's driving traffic to you. And so you have to kind of reboot your brand and do all
the machine is gone.
Right. That whole apparatus is gone. All those marketing dollars are gone. And so, I tell people all the time, you go 6 months without a paycheck, it opens your eyes. And that's exactly what I did. But I was more focused on, hey, doing the grunt work, doing the grind work. A lot of my best clients are clients that I put into $1,000 rentals in Uptown Charlotte. People that have bought 4 or 5 homes from me year after year after year, all because I took the time to treat them with the respect that they deserve, even though they weren't making a big sale. And so, I've always been of the mind. I mean, a lot of times I was doing rentals in Uptown Charlotte just to learn the buildings. I was making $75 when someone rented a place. Yeah. But it wasn't about that.
It was about the knowledge.
Right. And so then you fast forward a few years later, I'm selling more homes in the Avenue than anybody in Charlotte because I knew the building. Yeah. And so it's just, you have to it can't be about money right away. You have to have a bigger picture. But I mean, I remember that first year thinking, if things don't perk up in year 2, I'm probably going to have to go back into new home sales. I remember that vividly, thinking that, okay, we're going to give it our all. Yeah. But I can't have another year like that.
We have the benefit of, some hindsight and knowing that it did work out for you. What was it that clicked in that second year, or maybe even before?
I think that you kind of start seeing, okay, if I start connecting with people and making the phone calls and being out and about, right, all of a sudden it becomes one deal, and then you do right for those people. And that's the thing too. The great thing about not really having any business is that you can sink everything into everybody. Yeah. And so if I have 5 people,
you're not spread too thin yet.
Not spread too thin yet. And so you literally can give them your all, right? And when you do that, people will then say, hey, call Matthew. Or, hey, my brother's moving here. My cousin's moving here. My best friend just moved, or whatever it is. And that was the eye-opening thing. And once you get 1 or 2, you're like, I need 4. I want 8. I want 20. And that was what really sort of clicked for me. And then I was also transitioning into an age where all my peers were wanting to buy homes. And so it was just kind of a perfect storm to do that. So
yeah. I'm curious if, I have a hypothesis that being a Charlotte native helps a little bit in this. Yeah. Especially from people coming to the area, moving from other places, or young professionals, your friends wanting to buy homes, or, maybe people that you knew from college moving into the area from wherever they were working. The place inside and out, not just the geography, but then you develop that deep knowledge on the buildings and who was developing next. You strike me as someone that you knew the the best laid plans for Charlotte, and you were going to help people get to the right spot.
For sure. And I still, even now, Tim, I have people call out of the blue and say, hey, where's the next place that's going to blow up? Right? And so you have to treat this and be a student of the game. And be. I'm
curious what you think is right now.
Yeah. I mean, I'll tell you right now, it's going to be Loso.
I thought you were going to say, like maybe watching your content a little bit and then hearing some other things. I don't live in Charlotte, but that's what keeps coming up of like all the new stuff. They're starting to pick Loso.
I always tell people that if you're going to
lower South End for the non.
Lower South End. But if you are going to build a $2 million restaurant or a $3 million brewery or open up an office building and you're picking Lower South End, you have spent hundreds of thousands of dollars doing demographic studies and marketing. Follow that stuff. They're not opening that up to go out of business.
Right.
And so this isn't by mistake.
Right.
And if you look at now, I always tell people, South End was nothing when I was growing up. That was abandoned warehouses. You build a light rail, all of a sudden it becomes vibrant.
Yeah.
And now Lower South End connects right there. And so we're seeing a situation where all these places that would have opened up in South End that have money, even South End is too expensive for them. So they're going to Lower South End.
Yeah.
And just drive around Lower South End on Saturday night at 10 p.m.
Yeah.
And you'll see what I'm talking about. You'll see. And so it is undervalued. It's going to double here in the next 3-4 years.
It's the, Noto went through that. It's just going to keep happening.
I remember 10 years ago when Chantilly homes were $350. I remember that. I remember getting people on Bay Street for $360 and them saying, do you think this is ever going to be anything? Because the railroad tracks, it was always about Elizabeth. And you crossed over the railroad tracks on Pecan and now Chantilly, weird bungalows, I don't know. And now the homes are $2.5 million.
Yeah.
And so it's
amazing how quickly it changes too.
It's amazing how quick it changes. And oftentimes clients of mine, they're looking too small and too narrow. When it's like the bigger pictures here. Another one is Enderley Park.
Oh, see, that wasn't even on my radar.
Yeah, Enderley Park. So where it's all these Restaurant Constants and Midnight Mulligan Brewery and Summit Seltzer and all these other places, Lucky Dog and all this stuff on J Street with not just coffee and all this stuff opening up there. They're not opening up there because there's no traffic.
Right.
They're opening up there because you can see the city skyline from their balcony. And quite honestly, if you are a top 25 city in America with skyline views, that is worth so much money. And we have neighborhoods around town where you have that, where you can be in Uptown Charlotte in 5 minutes. And as our traffic continues to get worse, that's going to be worth even more money. It's like now is the time to get into those areas because in 5-10 years, it'll be out of reach, just like Chantilly, Dilworth, Sedgefield. Sedgefield was nothing.
Right.
And now they are building $3 million spec homes.
Which is insane to me. I mean, sometimes I feel that way about the lake. Obviously, it's nice to be able to put a boat in the water and go out on the lake. But, I see some of these houses selling for what they're selling for. And I'm like, this would have been nothing in in a Harrisburg, North Carolina. Like you'd barely, pay pennies for that.
Right.
Something struck me that when you were talking about like the skyline views and the proximity to Uptown and really it's selling a feeling too. It's not just the house, which especially in a thriving city like Charlotte is, you have to know about that. You have to know like, okay, this is my client and these are the things they're interested in. Maybe they're looking in this area, but this other area fits their lifestyle so much better. And, based on what they're trying to create for their life, like you probably have to redirect people sometimes. Well,
and it's also being able to sort of articulate that, right? And you get a feel for the lifestyle they're looking to live. And I always tell people, we're going to find homes you like, but is it the lifestyle that you want, right? And so, because there will always be a bigger home that's probably a little bit cheaper, but is it the lifestyle that you want, right? And so there's people that want to live the lake lifestyle. So they don't need to be in Elizabeth, right? And so much of it is really diving into what your people want, really understanding why they want it, and then being able to explain that to them and showing them this is why that lifestyle is going to be a great fit for you and your family or whatever. So it's amazing how I'll get people that will call me and say, hey, we've been talking to, we got this other agent. My buddy told me to reach out to them. And they just keep wanting to show me homes and name that neighborhood. But we don't want that. We don't like that. But they won't stop. They just keep sending me to send that stuff out there. And like, can we just meet for coffee?
Let's talk this through.
Let's talk this through. And we really started diving into it. And I ask a lot, why? Why is that important to you? And no one really asks why.
Yeah.
They say, oh, they want a 4-bedroom. Okay.
Yep.
Oh, they want to be, okay, yeah. I think, no, why?
Yeah. Do you want that 4th bedroom because you want to do yoga in the 4th bedroom? Because we might be able to do something else.
right, exactly. And so, but also just knowing what's coming, what's going, right? Why certain things are blowing up is so critical now. And that's the one thing I think even for agents, it can't just be you sending out an automatic email. It needs to be deeper than that.
Yeah. How do you stay sharp and up on all of this stuff? Because it's not enough to just live there, I don't think. Because, I live in Mooresville. I hear a lot about what's going on at the lake. But if I didn't do what I do and have to be involved in some of the development, I would not have any idea of the plans that were coming.
Right.
And Charlotte's way bigger than what we've got going on here. And you know so much. So how are you keeping up? So
Charlotte Business Journal, right? You want to know how money is made and business coming to show, read the Business Journal every single day. Also, too, I'm a nerd. I watch the city council meetings.
Oh, that's cool.
Because that is a great way to really see what's happening and the levers of power and who's getting that development to go through, who's not, right?
It's also, you're a college major. You have a little bit of an interest in that.
Right, a little, and they are boring, right? But they are sometimes they are not boring. But you have to, it's your business. And you have to invest in your business. And that's the thing, the reading and the knowledge and being a knowledge broker is so critical in a city where seemingly everybody is an agent, right? Or everybody wants to be an agent. But I think the Business Journal for me has always been, you want to see what's actually going on, who really has the power in the city, read the Business Journal. Because they're going to the city council and they're getting those deals done and those big mega deals done. I look at, there was a big deal in Ballantyne that was actually next to what was my neighborhood when I got out of college, right off of Ray Road, called Stone Creek Ranch. And now this other 600-acre development just got passed, even though the residents didn't want it, right? In the neighborhood that I used to sell, they were like, oh, we don't want this here. Yeah. Sure enough, it got rubber stamped. It's about power.
Right.
And who controls that, right? And where's that money coming from? And so when you understand that, it becomes very clear where the next up and coming areas are going to be. Because it's all about highest and best use. They're not going to let that land just sit there and be auto body shops, which is what, Villa
probably what it was already zoned for.
They're going to change the zoning.
Yeah.
And so it's as much, real estate is as much about kind of real estate, but it's also as much about power and who controls it.
I'll have to tell you off camera about how we got this Costco up here in Mooresville. I think you'd enjoy that backstory a little bit.
That would be really neat to hear.
Yeah. Well, and you think about the only other, I don't know about now, but at the time that we were trying to get this Costco approved, the only other intersection like exit 35 was Tyvola.
Right.
And then you mentioned earlier, like all of the research and money spent on picking a place. And at that time, I don't know if this is still true, Costco had never had a shutdown. Like every single Costco that's been open was still open at that point.
Right.
Significant number of jobs being brought to the community, and it was turned down the first time.
Right.
So I won't get into it on camera, but I'll tell you after. I think you'll really.
That sounds juicy. I love that. I love that kind of stuff. No, it's amazing. It's about power, and you see certain things that get turned down, and other things seemingly get rubber stamped.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Yeah, we see that here too, and it seems like sometimes it feels like Charlotte, like there's nowhere left to build, but there is.
Oh, there is. There is. And they are South End. They will slam it in there, and then it's all going to lower South End now. And so there's a lot of places there where I think people are trying to sort of slow things down or stop that, but there's nothing really stopping it.
As a resident, do you feel like the infrastructure is keeping up?
No.
Yeah.
There's no way. And that's the issue with every top 20 city in America, right?
No one's figured that out yet.
Well, you can't, because it's not a that's not a sexy thing to build, right? All the new restaurants and bars and the pickleball places, that's the kind of cool, sexy stuff. But saying, hey guys, we need to put a moratorium on all building for 5 years and widen the road, not by 2 lanes that we need now, but by 4 lanes because
that we're going to need,
right, that we're going to need in 20
after.
years, right? Or really afterwards, because they build the 2 lanes, all of a sudden you need the 4.
Yep.
So that's not saying, and you can't get the money for it. You would have to have such a forward-thinking leadership to even try that. But for Charlotte, we just don't want to become Atlanta with their traffic, right?
Yeah,
that's all. And that's the main thing with Charlotte, because it's going to get worse. It's going to get more trafficy, whatever. It's just a part of it. Too many people moving here, but as far as infrastructure, they can't build it quick enough.
Yeah,
we don't have nearly the amount of investment in public transport that we need. And so that's just what that is, But it also puts an emphasis on where you live, location, location, what area, proximity, things like that. It's going to matter more and more.
Absolutely. And also, if you are the type of person that's going to be extremely bothered by the lack of infrastructure growth, will you also get involved and will you go to the meetings and will you learn? If you're a person that's like, I'm mad about it, but I don't want to do anything about it or talk to anyone about it, maybe it's time to look at a different place to live in, Or
maybe it's time to stop moaning and groaning.
Or that too.
Just stop that, right?
Because,
right. That's the thing. It's like, if you're not going to do anything about it kind of on a civic level, then there's nothing really to talk about. And that's just what that is. But Charlotte, no, our infrastructure, no. We are nowhere near where we need to be, and it's just going to get worse and worse and worse.
Yeah. That's I could talk about this all day, but back to you. What's your life look like now? Like team, no team, like admin help.
For sure.
Like tell me how you work today.
Admin help so have a small team. I like to keep it super lean, and have a guy on my team that is doing just a lot of different buyers, stuff like that. And he's really building out his business. And honestly, my goal for him has always been to build out his business so that he can do his own thing later on, if that's what they want to do.
Yeah.
I'll never begrudge somebody that because nobody held me back. And so, but admin, social media coordinator, videographer, photographer, all that stuff kind of on staff always. So just people at not your beck and call, but someone who is there to support the apparatus, right? Because my job, and this is what I'm good at, meeting people, greeting people out and about in these neighborhoods, at that new restaurant, whatever it is, to learn the ins and outs of these communities, so I can tell you the nuances between them when you come to me and need help finding a home or selling that home. Because selling a home is about selling a lifestyle too. Yeah. Right.
But if you had to video and edit your own content, you don't have the time to go do those things.
Well, and the thing is too, I just wouldn't do it.
Right. Yeah. Same.
That's the whole thing, right? So if I had to edit it and tape it and do that, there's no way. And a lot of people, they don't act because they won't pay somebody to help them become double more productive. Yeah. And that's we talk a lot about investing in your business. Yeah. And that took me a long time to understand.
You use the word business a lot where so many other agents don't.
Sure.
But the thing that lures them to real estate that's so attractive about real estate is, like you mentioned before, not being beholden to the manager, you becoming the CEO of your own business and having control over your life and how you want to live it. But the struggles are such that you have to live the life of a business owner if you're going to succeed.
Oh, and I think most people on the surface think they want to be the boss. I don't think most people want to be the boss. I think most people want to clock in, clock out, 9 to 5. My check comes every 2 weeks and I go home, because most people don't want to go 6 months without a paycheck, or get that phone call at 10:30 at night that you have to take, or spend all Saturday away from your friends and people doing all the fun stuff you see everybody else doing, and you're out showing property all day, and doing that repeatedly year after year after year after year to try to make this work. Yeah. And so a lot of people think they want to be the boss or want to have these big teams, and I see people with 50 and 60 agent teams. I don't even know how they do it. I
stressed
have
me out a
no clue
little bit.
how to manage it, right? So that's the one thing is that but you have to have the support staff, and I was doing it on my own for a very long time, and then the light bulb went off. Probably that would be close to 8 years ago is when I finally said, I'm not touching that paperwork anymore. If it's not furthering my business, I'm not doing it anymore, because I was definitely burned out to the point to where it was like I was spending 4 hours a night doing paperwork and negotiating deals and showing property. And so it's just not sustainable long term. So that's what and then you know what happened? You spend that money and your business triples. You spend more money, it doubles again.
It's amazing how
that works.
Yeah, you shine a light on what you're good at and what makes you you and what makes the clients like you, and put all your energy into that.
Right.
And then your business blossoms.
And knowing what you're good at. I know I hate paperwork.
Yeah.
I've never been good at it. When I would get written up in new home sales because of my paperwork. So I've been that way, since I left school. And so you do what you're good at. And some people love paperwork. They love spreadsheets. They love it. I despise it.
Yeah.
So I don't need to touch it.
Yeah.
I pay people to do that for me. And that's where you have to know your strengths, because you can't do it all. And too often we try to do it all and it limits us. And then we wonder why we're burning out or we're struggling, right? Or your professional life is doing great and your personal life is in shambles.
Right.
Which is most agents. That's most agents.
Yeah. I'm also most business owners too.
Yeah.
I even think on like days where things are super crazy, like it would be so nice to just be the person that goes to like reorganize the grocery carts at the store. Like, can I just go do that job for a couple weeks? Like, let me take a sabbatical. I don't need to stop working, but I just want to go do a job like that.
Right.
Where there's like no fires. There's no stakes to this.
But we would hate that.
I would hate it.
That's
why I'd say just for a couple weeks, clear the head, get back at it. But then there's some attorneys that I really admire that have this group called Maximum Lawyer.
Okay. And
one of the attorneys, Jim Hacking, he's got a very large immigration practice across the U.S. And, people will come to him and say, my associate attorney is doing this, or like, I don't understand. And a lot of times his response is, they're not built like us. Right. And that's not an insult. It's people are good at certain things. Right. And not everybody is equipped or has the desire to be a business owner.
Right.
So they're not built like us, not meaning to like ostracize, but you have to remember the different buckets of people that you're working with.
For sure.
And that's also how you build a team around you.
Right.
Because if you had a team of 10 people that were exactly like you and none of them wanted to do paperwork.
Oh, nothing would get done. Nothing would happen. That would be, and a lot of times you need people that are fundamentally different than you. Because a lot of times it's, he's a cool person. We mesh so well together. That may not be the right fit. Yeah. Sometimes you need people who are like, hey, I don't necessarily want to get a drink with that person, but man, they do good work. Yes. And they do the work that I won't do. And so it's,
you don't have to be best friends to work well
together, right?
What was the first hire you made?
That would have been a transaction coordinator.
Yeah.
And
I wish every agent would do that. All of our transactions go so much more smoothly with a good transaction coordinator.
They should. And the irony about it is, if you're a new agent, before you even have business, you should have that day one. You should have a day one. Because it frees you up to do the other activities that are actually going to feed your business. Yeah. Instead
and a sounding board, someone with experience who's been through this and things that you might not know as a new agent whenever you're working on a deal, or once you actually get the contract to the attorney's office, that's where where we lose a lot of agents of like, they're like, I don't know what's happening. The transaction coordinator does. And then you get to, don't worry about it. Transaction coordinator will deal with us. Right. And you go out and you keep selling some houses.
Right. They keep it all straight so you can do the other activities that keep your business going. Yeah. Because you get bogged down on things that don't further your business, then you're going backwards. And that was one thing. I mean, and I made that mistake. Oh, I can do it. I don't want to pay anybody. Yeah. And I did it for years and years and years. And then I look back thinking, man, how much more could I have done if I just would have let go? Yeah. And so that's
I kick myself for stuff like that too sometimes. Like, why did I hold on so long?
But you have to live
Lessons learned.
Lessons learned, for sure. Yeah.
Your answer to this question might be the same, but I'm curious if it's different. So that transaction coordinator was your first hire. What role was your best hire?
Probably the transaction coordinator, because, that opened my eyes to, I can let go and be more successful.
And that gave you the freedom to think of the other ways you could do that.
Right. And then it's now that opened up another door. Well, let's start diving into the marketing side of things and getting a marketing manager. And then, let's get a social media manager, right? And then let's talk about bringing and having a close relationship with, videographers and photographers who can do content that you want, right? On kind of like in a timely manner, right? So you can get out even more content. So all those things matter, and you can spend years thinking about it and not acting on it. And that's the main thing, is just putting it, just acting on it, just doing it. But that first thing took so much off my plate. And the thing is too, you're happier, you're selling happy.
Yeah.
Right. You're not so wound so tight that your client can feel the energy.
Yeah. They really can tell.
And they can tell. And that's the toughest thing about the gig, is that when you're starting out and you have no business, not appearing to be so desperate that you need the deal so bad. And now when you get to a certain level, you kind of give people the information. It's really up to them. Right. But when you need that and you haven't had a check in 6 months, you're wound tight.
Yeah.
The stakes are high.
Yeah. Having been, you seem like a person who cares a lot about mentorship, because you give credit to the people that came before you at the builders and poured into you kind of without hesitation.
Sure.
And you've done that with people on your team. Aside from getting a mentor, what would be like your number one piece of advice to not necessarily a young agent, but a new agent?
If I had to do it all over again and I was starting day one, I would get on a team. I would get on a big producing team, and I would, whatever the split was, is irrelevant. If they're taking half your money, this is learning time. This is not about that, because you can go to some firm where they'll give you all your money and you're going to make $0. It doesn't matter. Go to a team, be hungry and grind and hustle. And every lead they give you, you are working it to the nth, and you are building a book of business. And then, so when you are ready to leave, all those people that you helped that were leads given to you are essentially now your customer. And so that's the first thing there's no way I would do what I did back in the day, where, I'm going to go it alone and I'll figure it out.
You did, but
I did, but most don't.
Yeah.
And it also slows down that whole kind of process, that learning process. So I think for me, it's getting on a team that values education, values mentorship, will go on listing appointments with you, will go on buyer consults with you. And someone who doesn't want the credit, but they want to build you up and pour into you. And that's what I would do first. First things first, I wouldn't care about a split. Because I was making no money anyhow on my own. So, what's a 50-50 split at that point?
Yeah, this doesn't surprise me about you saying this, having heard you say, I was making $75 getting these people leasing it because I wanted to learn.
Right.
I think curiosity is one of the most, is like the superpower. And if more agents, I'm saying agents because we're talking about real estate, but I think this applies to any profession, anybody, about how the curiosity and the thirst for knowledge, and like you said, being a knowledge broker, having the knowledge to share, is like the cornerstone of any profession, what it may be.
100%. This job should come with a 1 to 2 year internship, and because it would make everybody a true pro at this game, instead of I'm just going to bebop around town and try to make it work, right?
Yeah.
But really, you're helping somebody with their biggest investment in their life, and too often we don't treat it as that. Yeah. The TV shows don't treat it as that, right?
Yeah. It's the line item on the closing disclosure.
Right. Unfortunately, and this is life-changing stuff. It changes people's whole family line. And when someone can make 100, 200, 300, 400 grand on a home, it's like hitting the lotto.
Yeah.
And when you can do that time and time again, you are changing people's lives fundamentally. And that's what I treat it as that. I always have. I've seen it in my own family's life, how big of a deal real estate is. I've seen it in my own life, how big it is. And so it's just really, that's the best part about my job, is seeing people's lives change, because they took action. They trusted me, and they gave me the opportunity to serve. And when you look at it like that, you will have a very, very good career in real estate. If you look at it as an opportunity to serve and not take and not make, it's amazing how your life will change and their lives are definitely going to change.
That's definitely going to end up as a reel on Instagram.
Cool. Nice. Okay.
I mean, I'm just listening to it. I'm like, that's like, just bottle that up. You know, there's been so many things that you've said that I'm like, I wish I could just bottle that up and share that with a lot of the agents that I know of, like, listen to this passion, but also like the structure around it. Like, it's not just like, you can tell you're extremely passionate about what you do, but you know, the footsteps and the work that you have to put behind it. It's not enough to just care, and you're actually going out and doing it and making it real.
Yeah.
It's so cool.
And it's personal. It's personal. I mean, these are not just clients. These are not random people, right? These are people, especially how I built my business, which is all through my sphere. These are people that I know, right? And you know some of their details about their life before they've even told their family. Yeah. This is just real stuff. And so
the number of agents that find out about pregnancies before they've, like, we have to look for a house because I'm in the first trimester, but you cannot tell my mom, or you cannot tell my cousins.
Right. Yeah. And don't post that or don't do this. It's like, because, we're doing this, or we know this is happening. And these are major things going on that their own parents don't even know. Yeah. And they're letting you in on something that's so critical to their future. And so I never take that lightly, never have and never will. And that's the one thing. It's an opportunity to serve. And to think about this, the opportunity that someone gives you to impact their life bigger than any other decision, that is something that, I mean, you just cannot squander that.
No. Are you always on, or do you have things that you like to do when you're not doing real estate?
You know, real estate is one of the few things where I feel like people always want to talk about it.
Yeah.
Right. There's never like, so and they'll say, I don't want to talk show with it. And I think it's supremely interesting. Yes. Right. So I actually don't mind it because I do think it's just, there's so much sort of bad info out there that I love telling the story of Charlotte and telling people what we see here and how it isn't like maybe what you see in another city. Yeah. And so I'm so passionate about this because it is so, my roots are so deep here. So I don't mind talking it, but no, I mean, obviously, I do a bunch of different things. And that's the one thing I would tell agents, like, find something that you like to do outside of it and get in that group. I'm big into F1. And so we have an F1 group, we do car rallies and all these other stuff. So I'm into that kind of stuff. And whether
I can't imagine that's an inexpensive hobby.
It's not. It's a sickness. Definitely, there are cheaper hobbies.
But you've been selling a lot of real estate for a long time, so you've earned it. It works out. Yeah. So, but it's amazing how the connections there. You're passionate about those things, and that ends up giving you other opportunities for more business. And so, there's everything that you do it with passion, go all in. That's why I don't spread myself too thin doing everything. Pick 2-3 things you're really into. And we do bourbon tastings and stuff like that because I'm into that. I'm into doing all types of stuff, right? And so it's just going all in. And when people can see passion for that, they end up kind of trusting you. And then they say, hey, Matthew, man, I know all these other agents, but I like You're the one.
I know you. I trust you. Let's talk.
And trust, that's cool. My 3 favorite words.
That's it. But yeah, no, I mean, definitely car clubs, F1, traveling, all that kind of stuff is always great. So I want to ask you about the tools in your toolbox. My husband has this idea that he wants to ask, and it's partially selfish for us because we love hearing about what helps successful people continue to be successful. So do you have any, whether it's an app, a skill, nothing's off limits here, that you feel like is something that just helps you continue to be good or get better? Yeah. So I think reading every day is something, and it can be articles, but something that is tied to your business, right? I almost never am listening to the radio in the car. Yeah. Right? Same. I'm always listening to a podcast, a book, something that pertains to my business. Right. Yeah.
Ryan too. I'm pointing because he's off camera. But
and so because I'm just, that's valuable time. Right. And so those are those little things that stack up day after day after day. And you look back and think, a year later, It's like building a house, right? Building a foundation on a house, right? So, but I mean, I'm reading financial news, City of Charlotte news, Business Journal, looking to seeing what the city council is doing or not doing, what schools are being built, what bonds are coming up.
Yeah.
All this stuff matters.
It does.
To where then people are going to move and having an interest in it, right? So that's one thing just off the top there. But then also too, one of the apps that I really like to use is called Otter, OTTER, and it's an AI app essentially where you can record a conversation and then it will actually make a transcript so you can go back and review it. So you're not missing anything, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of times I'll ask a client, hey, I'm using this app. Do you mind if I just have this here? Because I don't want to be taking notes and missing something and paying attention to what I'm writing down instead of paying attention to them. And so it'll record the whole thing, make a whole transcript, and that's it. When you're on a Zoom call, it will do that. Yeah. You're on a national meeting where there's 500 people on a call, you can record that. And let's say like, oh, I have a listing appointment at that time, but I can go back and read that later. So maximizes your time. You can be in on more meetings, more things, because you have that tool. And so that's a pretty big one there. But I think about going just grassroots with it. I think too often we're not picking up the phone. It's very easy in today's environment to just text. And definitely not do face-to-face, right? But I'm a big believer in meeting people face-to-face, making those connections there, but also just being present. And if it's meeting people at a brewery, meeting people at a book club, meeting people wherever.
Meet them where they are.
Meet them where they are, because that stuff matters. And it's actually, it's more relevant now because we don't do that anymore as a society. We don't want to talk to people. We don't want to meet you face to face, right? And so when you're saying, hey, I'll meet you guys out, let's do this, let's do that, you have to be in the game. Yeah. And that is just a tool that can fast track you, because, I mean, you can only message somebody on Instagram as, however many times. That's not a connection. Yeah. Meeting somebody, they have an event, they have a charity event, showing up. That kind of stuff matters.
Yeah. That's one of our favorite things to do, especially around here of, someone's doing like they're giving a talk on something. Well, we just live right here. Like, let's hop in the car and go. Yeah. I'm going to learn something. I'll show support for the agent that's putting it on. Like, I love that. There's been so many things that you've said that I'm like, I get you. I get you.
And also too, collaborating with people who are on the same level and the same train of thought as you too. Right. And so, and I don't even mean like level, I mean thinking on the same level as you do. Because everybody has different levels of business, right? Which is fine. And they are in different businesses too. But when you have somebody who's like, hey, they're doing the same things that you're doing for their business, there's a through line there to collaborate and grab coffee and hearing somebody else talk about not only what they're doing right, but what they've done wrong.
Yes. You learn so much from that.
And so
those are the things that we don't say on a podcast. You only get that, like the vulnerability and the sharing of information to that level in person.
In person, right. Yeah. Or I'm scared or I'm struggling with this. How did you get through that? What do you think about this? I know you're in the restaurant business and I'm in real estate, but I'm dealing with this. What do you think? And so those are the type of connections that make such a huge difference. And your network is your net worth, all that kind of stuff, right? It's actually pretty real. And that's something that I wish I would have known earlier. I wish that was something that we taught everybody in college right? That it's just not playtime and hangout time. It's actually, let's make some meaningful connections and be present and in whatever we're doing.
Yeah. I vote that you start a college course on this. Teach it wherever you want. If you want to go back to Chapel Hill and do it.
Okay, that's fair.
I would sign up just to learn, but you could totally do that. Like, I do wish that we had more formal education on that, but you could set up a masterclass right now and run with it.
I'm talking actually to the Atlantic Coast Conference in about 2 weeks here.
That's so cool.
At their headquarters with student athletes, because talking about a former student athlete that parlayed into the business world, because most of us are not going into the NBA. Right, or the NFL, right? So you have to, and luckily being an athlete teaches you the skills to actually be successful in business, but you have to use it.
Right.
And a lot of times you have these amazing connections from playing sports that you don't even tap into. And that's one of the biggest things I'm going to talk to them about is like, hey, use the connections and the people that want to be around you because you played a sport and utilize that afterwards. Don't let those connections die because you leave college. And so that's something that's I'm looking forward to talking to them about, because you kind of can be a little lost. You have all this structure with sports, and then you get out into the real world and nobody's telling you what to do. Nobody cares.
Yeah. I hope you post that or record it, or, I can't wait to watch and see how that turns out.
Yeah.
I think you are already taking this area and even greater by storm. So I am just so appreciative that you took the time to,
Thank you so much
to use the toll lanes probably to come up here to the lake.
Have to.
I've so much enjoyed this conversation and just really appreciate you taking the time.
It's been absolutely nice. My pleasure, and we'll love to do it again.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks so much.